I saw a glowing man in my house as a kid. I still don't know what it was. It's funny, isn't it? How one damn thing can color your whole life. People talk about pivotal moments, forks in the road. This wasn't a fork. It was like a goddamn chasm opened up and I fell in. It was 1988. I was 8 years old, living in that old farmhouse outside of Harmony, Pennsylvania. Harmony wasn't exactly brimming with excitement. Picture rolling hills, maybe 5 streets you could actually call town, and a whole lot of quiet. The kind of quiet that gets under your skin. The farmhouse, that place, was something else. 2 stories, paint peeling like sunburnt skin, and a basement that smelled perpetually of damp earth and something older. My dad, David, he was a mechanic at the garage in town. Blue collar through and through. Mom, Sarah, she kept the house, looked after me and my little sister, Emily. The first time I saw it, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was one of those nights where the moon was hidden behind thick clouds and the house was swallowing shadows. I remember needing to pee, that's how it started. I sat up in bed, my eyes adjusting to the dark, and that's when I saw it. Standing in my doorway, there was a figure. Human-shaped, but wrong. It wasn't solid, exactly. More like a shimmering outline filled with a soft, yellowish light. It wasn't like a flashlight beam, it was coming from within it. I couldn't make out any features, just the vague impression of a person. I froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. All I could do was stare, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. After what felt like an eternity, the figure just faded. It wasn't a quick disappearance, it was slow, like the light was being dimmed bit by bit until it was gone, leaving only the oppressive darkness of my room. I scrambled out of bed and ran to my parents' room. I burst in, blubbering about a glowing man in my room. My dad, he grumbled and told me it was just a nightmare. My mom, she pulled me into bed with them, but I could tell she didn't believe me either. But it wasn't a nightmare. The next night, it was in the hallway, just standing there, bathed in that eerie internal glow. This time, I didn't run. I was too scared to move. I just lay in bed, watching it. Again, it just faded away. I started telling my parents every morning. Every single morning. My dad got more and more annoyed. He started saying I was doing it for attention, that I was trying to disrupt the family. There's nothing there, Mark, it's your imagination running wild, he'd say, his voice tight with frustration. My mom, she was different. She wasn't as dismissive as my dad, but she was still skeptical. She started leaving a nightlight on in the hallway. She checked my room every night before she went to bed. She even started burning sage, saying it would cleanse the house of bad energy. Looking back, I think she was more scared than she let on. The figure kept appearing. It moved around the house. Once I saw it standing in the living room, staring out the window at the overgrown yard. Another time, it was in the kitchen near the back door. It never spoke, never moved, just stood there, glowing. I started having trouble at school. I was tired all the time from not sleeping. I couldn't concentrate. I got into fights because kids started calling me Spooky Mark. Then there was Emily. She was 5, small and sensitive. One night, she woke up screaming. Mom and Dad rushed into her room and she was pointing at the corner, her face pale and tear-streaked. The shiny man is there, she cried. That was when things really started to change. My mom started looking into things. She talked to Grandma Rose, who lived just down the road. Grandma Rose was old, her body frail, but her mind was sharp as a tack. She knew everything about the family history, about the history of the town. Grandma Rose listened to my mom, listened to my stories. She didn't dismiss me. She looked at me with these knowing eyes like she understood something I didn't. She told us stories about the land the house was built on. Stories about accidents, about tragedies, about restless spirits. She mentioned a light that walks, being tethered to the land by some unfinished business. She spoke of a debt. This land, it remembers, she said, her voice raspy. It holds on to things. Sometimes those things, they don't want to stay buried. That night, Grandma Rose gave my mom an old silver locket. It had been in the family for generations. She told my mom to put it around Emily's neck, that it would protect her. Things got worse. The glowing figure started to become more active. Doors would slam shut. The lights would flicker. Cold spots would appear in the house. One night, I woke up to find all the drawers in my dresser pulled open, clothes scattered all over the floor. It was like the entity was trying to get our attention. It was trying to communicate, but I didn't understand what it wanted. I started researching the history of the house. I spent hours at the town library, poring over old newspapers and historical documents. I learned that the land the house was built on had been the site of a terrible accident back in the 1920s. A young woman named Eliza had died in a fire. The fire had started in the barn. Eliza was trapped inside. They said it was an accident, a faulty lantern, but there were rumors that it was arson. Rumors that Eliza had been murdered. The more I learned about Eliza, the more I wondered if she was the glowing figure. Was she trapped here, reliving her final moments? Was she trying to tell us something? One night, I decided I was going to confront it. I was tired of being scared. I was tired of the fear that was consuming my family. I waited until everyone was asleep. Then I grabbed a flashlight and went downstairs. I walked through the house, calling out to the figure. "I know you're here," I said, my voice trembling. "I know about Eliza. What do you want?" I reached the living room, and there it was, standing by the window, bathed in that eerie glow. It seemed brighter than usual, more intense. I shone the flashlight on it. The light didn't seem to affect it. It just stood there, its form wavering slightly. "Eliza," I said, "is that you?" Suddenly, the air grew cold. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in an instant. A gust of wind rattled the windows. Then the figure moved. It didn't walk, it glided. It moved towards me slowly, deliberately. I froze, paralyzed with fear. As it got closer, I could make out more details. I could see the faint outline of a dress, the hint of long hair. And then I saw its face, or what should have been its face. There were no features, just a blank, glowing surface. But somehow I could sense its sorrow. I could feel its pain. It reached out a hand, its fingers shimmering with light. It touched my cheek, and then everything went black. I woke up the next morning in my bed. The sun was shining, birds were singing, everything seemed normal, but everything was different. The glowing figure was gone, it never appeared again. My parents, they seemed relieved. They didn't talk about it anymore. They wanted to forget it ever happened. But I couldn't forget. As I got older, I continued to research the history of the house. I learned more about Eliza's story. I learned that her death had been ruled an accident, but there were still whispers of foul play. I never found any definitive proof that Eliza was the glowing figure. I never found any explanation for what I saw. Years passed. I moved away from Harmony. I built a life for myself, but the memory of the glowing man never faded. Sometimes late at night when I'm alone in my apartment, I think I see a flicker of light in my peripheral vision. A faint, yellowish glow. I don't know if it's my imagination. I don't know if it's a trick of the light. But I know that something happened in that farmhouse, something I can't explain, and I know that whatever it was, it changed me. A few years ago, I went back to Harmony. I drove out to the old farmhouse. It was still standing, but it was in worse shape than I remembered. The paint was peeling even more, and the yard was completely overgrown. I walked around the property, trying to recapture the feeling of being a child, of being afraid. As I stood there staring at the house, I felt a presence. I felt like I was being watched. I looked up at the windows, and in one of them I thought I saw a flicker of light, a faint, yellowish glow. I stood there for a long time, staring at the window. Then I turned around and walked away. I still don't know what I saw in that house. I don't know if it was a ghost, a hallucination, or something else entirely. But I know that it was real, and I know that it will always be a part of me. A few months ago, I received a letter. It was from my mother. She doesn't write often. Inside was a small, tarnished silver locket. "Emily doesn't need this anymore," the letter read. I think it's time you had it. I hold the locket in my hand now. It's cold and heavy. I haven't opened it. I don't know if I want to. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Some lights, once seen, can never be unseen. And sometimes they never truly get paid.